I think the definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness.
Welcome to the Welcome to the 3-on-3 podcast. Yes, you are tuned in to the number one basketball podcast in the universe. I'm Hans here, joined with my compadres, my amigos, Evan, Lou. You got the Pod Mamba in the background, making sure we continue to be the number one best NBA podcast in the universe. We're going to jump right into it, guys. We have a great show in store for you. We're going to talk about the East playoffs, the West playoffs, and is there a little pettiness in these awards being voted on by the NBA players? We'll get into that, guys. But let's start off with the East playoffs. Right now, the Bucks are down 0-2 to the Indianapolis Pacers. The Pacers have basically been in charge both games. I don't think that it was really in question. The second game, the Bucks were coming back a little bit, but Indiana has been in charge for both of the games. Highlighted note, Damian Lillard, my guy, favorite player, came back from his blood clots after missing a little over a month, but it ain't matter. The Bucks still lost to the Indiana Pacers and now have to go back down 0-2 in the hole. And as those of you who know, if you're down 0-2, is a 94% chance that you're going to lose that series. Evan, I'm going to start with you, man. Why do the Indiana Pacers have the Bucks number like this? What's going on?
Good evening, good morning, good day, my good friend Hans. Let's talk about these Bucks for a second. You know, what's cool about this podcast is that, we're the 3-on-3. There's three of us. We roll deep. We've got Pod Mamba background, got us covered. You would say we have a strong team, a strong group, right?
Yeah,
Giannis
correct.
does not have that at all. At all. Coming into this series is the thing that I was most concerned about with the Bucks was that really Giannis was going to have to John Wick it in order to get through this Pacers team. A team with
John
tremendous
Wick?
John Wick. He was
Even
going
with
to have
Dame there?
listen.
Even with
Well,
Dame?
come on, Dame,
Wow.
coming off of this blood clot
Wow.
issue. Listen, I'm happy he's back.
But it's
Time for them to go home is what it's going to be. And there's no better encapsulation of that than my, I'm gonna call him my favorite player of the night, Mr. Kyle Kuzma himself. Being a new Washingtonian, I came into this season unhealthily tuned into the Washington Wizards, right?
Unhealthily.
you
I
mean
like
a
that.
boomer. You mean a
tuned in.
boomer. You mean a boomerang Washington.
Absolutely. I wanted to, get familiar with my home turf. And I got to enjoy Kyle Kuzma play the most uninspired basketball that I've witnessed in person, probably in my life watching the NBA. And when the Bucks made this trade for him in hopes of getting some depth for the playoffs, I was like, I've seen this guy play basketball for 5 months. He's not playoff caliber. Uninspired. Listen, the lack of jogging that he did, it was terrible. So when I see Kyle Kuzma put up a goose egg, as my friend Lou said before we got on, a goose egg in game one of the playoffs, former NBA champion Kyle Kuzma, let me point that out. I said this team
with 30 minutes of cardio.
Listen, 30 minutes of
30
straight
minutes
cardio.
of suicides.
I try to get that in the morning. Okay, he accomplished it that night. All right, but he got a game check for it. So I say all that to say, the Bucks just don't have the help. You look at their roster. There's nobody on this roster, save for a healthy Dame, that inspires you to think that they have a chance. And we've seen that in the first two games against a Pacers team that has tremendous depth, a team that Everybody understands their role. A team that's been one of the best in the league since the turn of the calendar year. We slept on how good Indiana turned their season around. For them to get the 50 wins to begin with, to get into this postseason, they were no match for the Bucks. I said Giannis would have to put up like 45, 15, and 10 a game for them to have a chance. He's doing his best to get close to that, but to this point, it's not mattering.
Definitely. I can't argue with anything there. I mean, Kyle had a blistering 12 points to bounce back from his goose egg. Roster construction is definitely crazy. If you look at the stats, man, everybody, literally almost everybody except for two people had a negative plus or minus rating for the Bucks. Uh, that tells you the story right there. Lou, what did you
Yeah,
see in
man.
the Pacers Bucks matchup, man?
I mean, it's crazy. It's just like clearly Milwaukee is outmatched. Everybody's already discussed it. And one of the biggest things in difference is in the playoffs, you need depth. Yo, I would Milwaukee doesn't have a TJ McConnell, right? And what is TJ McConnell in the grand scheme, right? But just to talk about the construction of the team, just to show what Milwaukee doesn't have, right? We see Dame, we see Giannis, and talking about those big names, right? So you
A
automatically like
reliable
this is a
20
blockbuster
minutes.
team. Exactly. You don't have that. You know what I mean? For you to have somebody come in and give you 30 minutes of suicides, man, is absolutely unacceptable, man. It reminds me of the series in where when Indiana lost to Miami, and you had Roy Hibbert give you a goose egg. It's like, yo, your team was on their way. I mean, but you hear and you provide nothing. I mean, Indiana is putting on a masterclass against Milwaukee. They're showing you what it is at the end of the day when you have a playoff ready team. And like Hans, like you mentioned before, man, it looks like they just have Milwaukee's number, but you have players like Mathurin who are really showing you exactly why they earning their keep. Guys like Miles Turner who are earning their keep. Siakam who's showing you honestly, right? He's more of a 1B, maybe in some games a 1A rather than the number two guy. I mean, next to Halliburton, and for them to go and come in and giving you double doubles. So at the end of the day, man, Indiana's just playing great basketball. Obviously, being at home, it helps. You have the hype of being at your home crowd. So hopefully we'll see Milwaukee play with some pride going back for 3-4. But Indiana is really just at the end of the day is putting on a master class. And as we've pointed out before, man, I mean, from a coaching perspective, Milwaukee, it doesn't look too solid in itself. I mean, somewhere with Doc, who has had realistically a subpar um, resume. I mean, he can't lean on that championship for too much longer based on your current playoff resume as it's been. And then, with the Power Mama's favorite coach of all time, with Darvin Ham at his number 2. So right now it's not looking great for Milwaukee, but like I said, I hope to see them play with some pride, and hopefully, Dame now he's just shaking off some rust, and then we can have at least somewhat of a competitive series.
I'll say this. Lou said it twice, so it just got under my skin. I don't think, and I'll say this out here, maybe a take. Indiana, they're frauds. They're frauds. Everybody's talking about the Cleveland
Not against
Cavaliers.
Milwaukee.
You know how everybody's talking about Cleveland Cavaliers, how they're frauds and they're really not going to make it. Da, 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 da. Indiana Pacers are the fraudest team in the playoffs right now. I said it. I
I
don't
would
care what
agree with you
anybody
against
thinks.
any other team.
I'm saying in general, you could use a broke clock is right twice. Doesn't mean it's right all the time. So just because they're not frauds against the Bucks doesn't mean they're not frauds. I think this is more of a testament to the inept roster of the Milwaukee Bucks and the mistakes that the front office have made. Granted, I understand from a monetary wise why you would want to move Chris Middleton, right? For money, I get it. You want to save money off the books, whatever, right? I don't know how much they saved, but yeah, and still, you could have done that in the offseason, right? If he was a better fit, right? But even if he wasn't,
it was
it's
only $5
still
million.
it still shows you're inept as an organization in this roster. This roster is, to me, it just doesn't fit. It's disjointed. It looks like they're still learning how to play with each other after a year of being with each other. And for me, who is a Dame fan and who likes Giannis, I don't know how much, more you can ask Giannis to do, right? Being third in a running for MVP, averaging dang near 30 points, and, just really going out there and giving his all. It's really hard to watch to watch that. So before we move on to the next one, I'll say this. I think really honestly, this is a detriment to what the Milwaukee Bucks have done, and they have a lot to do. They have a lot to do.
I
But we're
I know
gonna
we're supposed to move on, but I really want to ask you one question though, in terms of this. I know you're saying that the inept nature of Milwaukee, Indiana being frauds. However, if Indiana wasn't doing what they needed to do you not think that Milwaukee would still be able to capitalize on that?
It's a weird question. You said if Indiana wasn't
If Indiana wasn't, because like we talk about, like, okay, yo, you're supposed to win XYZ games, right? Do you think that Milwaukee's a better team than Indiana?
yes.
Hmm.
I think
You think
Milwaukee. I'll say
Milwaukee's a better
this.
team than Indiana?
I think Milwaukee has better stars than Indiana. I'll say this. So, like, I think Giannis is a
Agreed.
bigger star. I think Dame is a bigger star.
Agreed.
I think Indiana has the third best player on the court. Right?
Agreed.
And
The
if
problem
you're
is
the
they have the
team,
third through the 12th best players on the court.
and that's what I'm saying. So
But
if you
that's what I'm
have the
saying.
third,
But
if
that's what
you
I'm
have the
saying.
third
That's why I asked
team,
about the team.
so that's
As
so
it's, who
in
you think is a better
essence, that's
team?
more on the Bucks than Indiana being great, is what I'm saying. Because what I'm telling you is that my opinion is I feel like, and their lack of defense. Like, if you watch, we're going too long on this. If you watch any other playoff, I'm not exaggerating. Watch any other playoff game, you're going to see defense being played at playoff levels. You're not going to see people giving up after a player passes you by. You're going to see people rotating it. You saw it. Like, you get what I'm saying? You see it on literally
Agreed.
even
Agreed.
Memphis, when they were being blown out by 50 or 60, right? On the first game, was playing better defense. They were
Agreed.
showing better effort, right? Even though they were getting
All right.
steamrolled. And at the end of at the end of the day,
Yeah, I mean, you will keep harping on that, but damn, okay.
but at the end of the day, like, for me, that Indiana is doing what they're supposed to do, right? Like you were saying. But for me, it's a more, what's bigger is the telling of the Bucks. There's no way
It's
you
more knock
have the
on the
two.
Bucks than it is on Indiana.
Exactly. It's no way you have the two best players on the floor and you're being out hustled, and like, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. You get what I mean? There's no
Got you.
excuse for that.
No, I got
So
you.
it's
I got you.
it's wild. Like,
Bro,
there's
can we stop crying about Dame and his team and get to somebody else?
wow,
Hey,
this
yo,
guy just,
look, my
he
bad.
wants
Let's
to.
move on.
Gosh,
Let's move on.
man.
My bad. I
Love
wild out.
should
I
have
wild
brought you
out.
home
Let's
last
move
night,
on.
okay?
Hey,
Come
yo.
on, man.
No, it's not even about Dave. I
Yo,
was talking about the
hey, yo,
Bucks,
chill,
but we
F.
could listen. We could go on that.
Chill,
That's
F.
fine. Let's move on to this Knicks loss real quick. So big body Brunson, who failed to show up,
There we go.
lost
Ooh,
to
nerve.
Cade Cunningham. No, I'm just joking. So this has been the most exciting series in the East playoffs. I love it. It reminds me of the basketball that I grew up in. It's physical in nature. These teams literally don't like each other, and there is not a single, and I'm telling you, not a single possession off. These guys, no matter who you put in from each team, they know the assignment. They are locked in. And I'm sorry, y'all. I know it's hyperbole, but I haven't seen this like brand of basketball since what, early 2000s or so. Like, this team's just
Not gonna
lock
lie.
in this early and going at it. I
This
absolutely
feels more
love
like a
this
4-5
series.
matchup than the 4-5 matchup.
Exactly. I really think these two teams, we wish would have faced each other later, if I'm honest. Just because of the caliber of basketball we're getting, I am in love with it. I am here for it. And I hope it continues throughout the playoff with every other team. But listen, that's not what we're here about. The Knicks, they unfortunately dropped one in the Garden. It's tied 1-1. Cade Cunningham is out here showing you who he is, but the team also is letting you know that they're not, they're not just frauds, as people are calling them. They happen to be here. They legit earn their space here. Ev, as the resident Nick fan here, we're going to start off with you. Are you concerned with what you saw? And we'll talk about the fourth quarter specifically, because everybody has made their assessments on there that Detroit has trouble closing the fourth quarters, given that they're a young team, and the Knicks seem to kind of turn it on in the fourth quarter. Is these trends and behaviors are you seeing, or is there anything concerning you right now besides the loss? Right, it was a close game throughout. It was a battle. It was a slugfest. So I'm not really more so on the win and lose, but is there anything that was like really concerning to you as a Knicks fan in this last two games?
So my answer may surprise you a little bit, and since you're talking to Knicks, I could run long, so just cut me off if I keep going too long. But to answer your question, I'm
Should have
not
started with me, Hans.
right.
We'll cut off his
So
mic.
to answer your question, I'm not concerned at all. And the
Okay.
reason I'm not concerned at all is because this team, being this Knicks team, is exactly where it needs to be right now. And let me explain what I mean by that. There's an X's and O's conversation I'll have as well, but there's a heart conversation that I want to have first. When we traded away Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and we lost Isaiah Hardenstein, we lost the toughness of this team. We have a tremendous offensive team, but what has been, I'd say, one of the Achilles heels of this team since opening night is there's a fight to it, a dog to it that's been lacking. It's too finesse and not punch you in the mouth a lot. What Detroit is doing right now is punching this team in the mouth. And this team needs to be punched in the mouth because only one of two things is going to happen. It's going to respond to it, or it's going to fold under it and have to answer some real tough questions about who they want to be going forward. So that's what I see happening through the first two games is a Detroit team that wants to get physical with this team, wants to intimidate this team, right? And wants to make this team fold under that physical nature. And what's happened is we haven't matched their intensity through the first three quarters of two straight games. And when we finally turn it up in the fourth quarter, we're playing catch up. It
Let
worked in
me
game one, it didn't in game two.
Let me ask you this, Ev, and if you can answer real quick, we'll move on to Lou, his take on this. Is it that Detroit punched the Knicks in the mouth, or that they punched Cat in the mouth? In the fourth quarter last game, he didn't even attempt a field goal at all. He hasn't been showing up towards the end of the game when some would say he clearly has a mismatch on the court. Does that give you great concern? Just because given what you traded off to get him, right? And you're saying that those players you mentioned, and some of those players you traded off had the toughness, and you got somebody a little softer in the cheeks right there, real soft serve looking. So, you know, do you think that
Pause.
was it the Knicks, or was it Cat necessarily being exposed as being a kitty cat?
So I actually don't blame Cat at all
Okay.
because it's that goes to the X's and O's portion of this conversation. And this has been an issue all season. It was understandable last year when we were as decimated by injury, but my issue is that we become entirely too spam heavy on the pick and roll and the
Hmm.
switch and the Brunson one-on-one.
Right.
This team, you've traded for these offensive weapons, and we don't have a plethora of plays that allows all of these offensive weapons time and chance to cook. When the play is designed for Cat to run to the corner, unless he's coming to the top to set a screen for Brunson. When the play is designed for Mikal and OG to run to the two corners and watch and wait for the screen and roll to work. When we're doing that over and over and over, it doesn't allow anybody else to get into rhythm. Now, the Brunson Towns pick and roll has, by statistics, has been one of the It's like in the top 5 in efficiency for the season.
Okay.
But when
Some
when you
Stockton Malone type vibes.
exactly, but when you turn Mikal Bridges into a catch and shoot player, when you turn Towns into basically just a catch and shoot player, when you turn OG into that, you know how it is. When you're on the court, you could be on the court with the best guard in the world, but if all you're doing is watching him dribble and go for it, when it's your chance, you haven't had a chance to get into the rhythm and cook some. Here,
Nope,
okay,
not at
this
all.
is the last
Not at
part.
all.
I'll say this real quick. You watch those last 4 possessions of last night's game, right? We had a Brunson wide open 3, a Mikal Bridges wide open missed 3, and 2
Yeah, I was
Brunson
gonna
wide
hit that.
open threes. 4 plays. When we finally ran plays, we got 4 wide open shots that we just failed to hit 3 or 4 of them. If we ran plays
And
the
lost
whole
by
game,
6.
yeah, if we ran plays after it was tied, if we ran plays the whole game that got every player opportunity to get looks in motion and cook some, we statistically the plays would not be as efficient, but the sum of it, we would be better off offensively. And so that's the transition that I'm looking for us to see as we get into game 3 and 4. Do we make those adjustments?
Got you, Lou.
Look, Hans,
What does
I
you
think your
go ahead?
question was a little off about this. I'm sorry about this getting punched in the mouth. Isaiah Stewart wasn't playing. So Knicks
This guy,
clearly didn't get punched.
this guy. What does Detroit
Oh,
have to do, man? Uh, Beef Stew doesn't play.
yo, I mean,
What does Detroit have to do or keep
I
doing, man,
think
to pull this off?
I think oh yeah, no, I think Detroit has to continue to do what they did. I mean, honestly, even what they did in game 1, let's be real. Like, a major thing that they did in terms of game 2, two big things, right? So you start out the game off rip leading, right? So you're up by almost 10, and then you have a biggest lead of 15. Making the Knicks play catch up is not in their pace. It's not in their game, especially yes, we know they're turning up on the fourth quarter, but if you know you have an issue of closing the game, what is your best strategy? Making sure that you're up as best as possible. Where they lost, I mean, in the first game, they were down 10 in the first quarter. You see a clear difference, right? We're able to ride the confidence, especially being away, that we're ahead. We're jumping ahead of you. And then you have guys, it's unacceptable. You're not going to win the game if you're the Knicks if Cat only scores 10. He's not giving you a double-double. It's impossible for the Knicks to win with those types of stats.
He's got to have the touches,
Unless Cat,
but I don't disagree.
exactly. No, I'm saying like it can't happen.
You know what?
Cat, for
I
the Knicks to win with Cat with just 10 points, you have the same points as OG and Hart, and neither of the, and mind you, Hart didn't even he's not even in double digits in terms of for his rebounds. But then you play again, you have 3 guys on the Detroit side who ended the game with a double. You're not going to be successful with the Knicks if you're not able to then, for one, be able to match the offensive intensity and be able to try to slow these guys down. Offensively, Knicks were the better team game 1 and were able to ride it out. We know that Detroit historically hasn't been able to close out. So that, if you have them on their heels the whole game, that already puts you in a position of control. Knicks controlled the pace game 1. Detroit came out, controlled the pace game 2, caught the Knicks on their heels, and was able to be able to ride it through and be able to come out with the
so
dub.
to moving on after this. I think a question that needs to be asked on the Knicks and what Ev was saying about the touches is, I wonder, and this is a rhetorical question. You guys can answer it. Hit us up on our social media. Hit us up in the comment section. Give us the answer to this question. I wonder if Cat not getting the ball is more of a X's and O's or a confidence issue. Just kind of wonder that. But all right, guys, moving on real quick. Guys, Boston, Orlando. Boston wins 1-0. Orlando was in there for a little bit, but eventually Boston kind of showed up and let them know who they were. Do you guys see anything that we didn't see coming in this series, guys? We only have a couple seconds real quick. Is there anything really that... No? All right, moving on. Cavs, Miami. Miami lost 1-0. That game was a little closer. Miami's a little scrappy. Bam was actually doing some work there. Not really low post moves, but he had a little over the shoulder that made me a little proud. I was like, oh, he learned that from his girl Asia, though.
I
So
thought that was an accident. I ain't gonna hold you. I thought that was an
no,
accident.
no, he's learning
Not
from
gonna-
Asia. Asia's putting him in the lab. She's an MVP. She has a game, so he's learning from his girl. Shout out to you, Bam. Listen, get it where you can. Listen, man, Asia's legit. So,
Hey, look.
however you get it.
If Akeem can do it, forget
Hakeem,
Asia.
he doesn't have the
Go do
he
it.
doesn't have the pretty face. Bam only learns from pretty people. Okay, but that game was a little close, but ultimately the Cast pulled it off. I do have a question / I don't. Anything really we're seeing on this one? It's going as planned, right? Do we see anything that gives us any hope that Miami will actually pull this over or make this competitive?
Heat and Magic, two Florida teams with not enough guns. How do you have not enough guns being
In Florida? Hey, I don't know. Great way to move on. I love it,
Amen.
Ev. All right, y'all. That's it. I love that. That's the John.
Shout
Hen
out to you,
talking.
man. Shout out to
That's
you on
the
that.
John Hen talking, man. Let's move on to the West
Call 12,
Side.
baby.
Call 12 because you're gonna need to. He got them guns. Let's talk about. All right, y'all. Speaking of Ja, let's start off with Memphis Grizzlies versus the OKC Thunder, man. Whew. That first game, man.
Valiant effort. It's just good to. It's just
Valiant
good. It's
effort by
just good
who?
to see Ja made it to the playoffs.
By who? Okay, you know what? I'm done.
By the
I'm gonna walk
cameraman.
off.
By the
I'm gonna-
cameraman. By the
By the
cameraman.
cameraman. Because valiant effort by whom?
It's great. It's great to see. It's great to see.
Lucid,
Ja made it to the playoffs.
valiant effort by the announcers by not folding it in and still giving the play-by-play to this game. All right, y'all.
Not even valiant effort to the network for not switching
Switching?
to I don't know what Real Housewives.
Could you imagine the switch mid-air? Like, all right, guys, moving on. But anyway, so
Mercy rule.
whew, the OKC Thunder steamrolled them. Ja goes on record saying we are not ever going to play this bad again, and essentially saying, hey, if we win the next game, first game doesn't matter. And when you come to the playoffs, it's kind of that mentality, right? It's not really over. It's first to 4, et cetera, et cetera. But this last go around, they didn't lose by 50. But they
That's right.
also were nowhere near really contention. They had it down to under 10 a couple times, but OKC just ramped up their defense, and also they were shooting well. And Memphis really just didn't have enough firepower for them. Ev, as a guy who watches Memphis and who's a fan of Ja, is there anything they can do to make this a respectable series, or is this just done?
Everybody knew coming into this series that this was the absolutely worst possible matchup for the Memphis Grizzlies. Don't get me wrong, OKC was dominant against everybody this year. You win 68 games, you dominated most of the league. But they were particularly dominant against the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't think they had one competitive game against them all year. So they're now 0-6
Average of
against
16
the
plus
Thunder.
win
Yeah.
margin.
Yeah. So Memphis is now 0-6 against the Thunder on the year. And sometimes there's just matchups that expose the absolute worst in you. And this is really a look in the mirror moment for Memphis. They allowed Ja to dribble himself into the paint, and then they give him nowhere to go from there. They have the size with which to force Jaren Jackson into being the worst version of himself, which he had a good game tonight statistically, but the rub on him has been he's really a 1-2 dribble max player that wants to be more than that. And when he's struggling, he just falls on the three-point shot where he's inconsistent with. They have the length and size to keep Desmond Bane from having those better games that he has against some other teams. So they just match up excellently against the Grizzlies. And unfortunately, a team that was already on the verge of packing it in for the season anyway. When you get a matchup like this, and the worst case scenario of how this matchup could start off is starting off this way, I think they're going to be done. I mean, no, I know they're going to be done.
Yes.
I think they're going to be done quickly.
Mm.
We might not even get a whoop that trick this series.
Look,
No.
Unts as we grew up and we would hear all the time, Al Bali, which
Got it.
means go pull out the broom and sweep. I mean, there's
Sweep.
not much really to say about this. Look, like Evan said, this is probably the worst basketball matchup that they could get in terms of how they match up against the Grizzlies. But in general, how OKC matches up against any team in the league is already a tough day in the office. They got nothing for him, man.
Yeah. It's I'll say this and then we gotta move on real quick. It's telling how wide the gap is between Memphis and OKC. And
Yeah.
a couple years ago, not OKC, Memphis was what the best team in the West or second best in the West a couple seasons ago. So it's telling how much a couple seasons can do, right, in the NBA, and how things can go from being really good to looking really bad and really deplorable quickly. So yeah, it's
Guys,
that
it's
matchup.
it's been 4 years for Memphis. Like, how much longer can they keep doing this before they have to like really
Hey,
consider maybe trading
Let-
Jaw and blowing it up?
there's some also
Well,
considerations that have been coming to play between suspensions and injuries and so on that they've had. They really haven't had that other than that first year where they made the push that we thought that they could do. Their seasons afterwards over the last three have been riddled with between suspensions and injuries and so on. And then, I mean, like how long is Steven Adams is going to be around, right? Aging. They're going to have to do some reconstruction, but don't jump the gun and talk about getting rid of Ja.
yeah, Ja is the marquee. Ja sells the tickets. Ja has the shoes and whatnot. So when you're in a small market, that's a tough decision to get rid of Ja. Everybody else, though, I anticipate will be on the table this summer.
Was
Not
that
saying
was
Ja's
that
not on the table, but everybody else is definitively on the
was
table.
that don't jump the gun a pun, Lou?
It was not. I mean, we do grenades.
It may
now,
have
okay?
been.
Oh, it's grenades
Catch
now?
up.
Okay.
It
We
may
do
have been.
grenades. Catch up.
I'm so sick with y'all. All right, y'all. Let's move on to another West Coast team out here.
Hold on, Hans, 1 sec. 5 seconds on it. Y'all can't tell me that grenade celebration wasn't tough. Now, come on.
He said it's not a
That joint
grenade.
was hard.
You're right. He's throwing his words into the. He's throwing his words
He's
into the
throwing
crowd.
his words into
the
the
silence
crowd.
tonight out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I think it's only tough because it's in the face of opposition. I think that's what makes it tough. Because if Peyton Pritchard did it, I wouldn't be looking at it the same way. I think it's tough because it's Ja.
First,
You're
yes.
lying.
Pritch,
Unseasoned
please?
Curry. If
Yes.
unseasoned Curry did that, you'd be
If
like,
Pritch,
"Oh man,
please did
that's
it, I
tough."
don't know. I might
Stop
like
it.
it.
You talking about the sixth man of the year? All right, give him some respect.
Yeah,
Gosh darn it.
unseasoned Curry.
Okay.
Stop it. All right, stop it.
Speaking of Curry, I
We
think
ride it
Curry,
with
I
Pritchard.
think Curry doing the grenade would be better than his weak ass sleep.
Better than the night.
I
Oh,
like the
night.
night.
It's so corny. It's the
I
corniest
like the
celebration,
night.
dude.
You just mad because he's delivered it against you guys a myriad of times.
I just hate when
Very-
Draymond does
When was
it.
this?
Very on brand. I say that. Very on brand.
Curry has yet to beat the Lakers in the playoffs, so I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's delivered it during the regular season, though. I'll say that. All right, y'all.
Yes.
Let's let's get in. Since we're talking about them, Golden State Warriors, they beat the Rockets. It was a back and forth game. They were physical with Curry. Jimmy Buckets, he showed up. We saw the key. The switch hit me is here. The Rockets looked a little out of sorts offensively, but they hung in there, right? It was still a competitive game. Golden State didn't run away with it at any stretch of time. Lou, as a resident fan of the young team, the Rockets, where do you think they need to go next to turn this series and make it even?
Here's the issue, right? And we've talked about this, the construction of this this team in terms of offensively. At the end of the day, offensively, as good as they have been, because we know their identity really through the season, which has brought them to where they are. Similar like they talked about, OKC has been their defensive prowess, their youth. They're able to be able to impose their defense, which then turned into offense for them, quick offense. And we know when it comes into the playoffs, completely different game. Fast break, slow down. This becomes more of a half court play type of game. For one, we know Houston inexperienced. Yeah, you have Dylan Brooks, you have Fred VanVleet, but you're playing against a team that has championship pedigree, for one, with a championship coach. Yes, Ime has done well. He brought them to the promised land like he was supposed to before, but you're talking about a team that's year over year has put themselves in positions for that, or at least over the last 10 years. We see the championship pedigree of Golden State. And then going back to the roster construction, other than Sengun, who do you have? Because if Jalen Green isn't on, completely cold. Jabari Smith have not paid any dividends over the last couple games, especially now in the playoffs. So for Houston, you have to figure out a way to activate Jalen Green where he can be consistent. Because if he's not getting his dunks off, or he's not being able to, he's on a hot streak and being able to hit it from beyond the arc, you have nobody that's really going to generate any real offense for you other than Alfred Sengun. So that's one of the biggest issues that they have right now. They can hope that their defense can help generate some easy offense for them to kind of keep them in the running. But based on how Golden State is playing, again, with their experience in championship pedigree, I don't expect this series to go long. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a quick 4 or 5 game series with Golden State winning.
Oh, 4 or 5. Okay. Got you. Got you. You know what though, Lou? You made an astute analysis, and I was trying to think of a team who are solid on the defensive end, which the Rockets are. Right? They have the athleticism. They've shown it, and they've been consistently solid defensively throughout the whole season. But yet and still, they struggle with having that guy, right, who can
Yeah,
consistently close it
exactly.
out for them. And I was thinking of the Detroit Pistons with the amalgamation of Ben Wallace, Big Shot Billups, Sheed, and how they really had a defensive team, but they also had multiple players who could score, but yet and still they knew
Yeah,
at the end of the day when they needed something, there was one guy. You know, it wasn't
yeah,
always who was getting off that night, which I think that's the pattern offensively that the Rockets have fallen into, especially when you go to the half court.
yeah,
The difference with that
yep,
Detroit championship team that beat the Lakers is that their half court, they knew who to go to. They knew what was happening.
yep.
So you
Yeah.
you bring you
And the
bring up
X's
a
and
good
O's
point
were
on that.
there. Yeah, the X's and O's, like you said, very, very big difference between who's getting off and then really distinct assignments. Everybody knows
Yeah,
where they're going, how they're getting there, and so on. The X's and O's were there
is
and
that
played to that strength. And then you have a guy like Rasheed Wallace, which you can argue is Houston Sengun, right?
Mhm.
But Fred VanVleet is not a big shot
Big
Billups,
shot? Yeah, no,
right?
you're right.
Dylan Brooks is not a Rip Hamilton. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
I get
Jabari Smith is, you know what I mean? So you it's not a Tayshaun Prince. So when you look at how this team is constructed, again, we could look at them even like as like a baby OKC. They don't have the depth and they don't have the offensive firepower for them to keep up. And especially if you're talking about a team like Golden State, where at any given time Curry can go off. All right, as our Pablo said, the 3-point merchant can go off. You got you have playoff Hemi, who's told you he looked at y'all in the post game to say it's the playoffs, ain't it? You know what I'm saying? This is I get activated during this time, and then again, just the experience on top of all of that, with you not being able to then compensate on the offensive end, it's not enough, man. It's not enough when you wear and tear and you get down to the later third quarter, and then you got to go through a grueling fourth quarter, man. And who do you call on?
got you. So in the last show, we talked about Golden State, and I shared the story about how Draymond Green from the Golden State Warriors said he got championship vibes from this team, and he felt like they were bound to the promised land. Given what you saw in this first game, Evan, the intensity on both sides of the ball, attention to detail on the defensive side, and then Curry going off, even though he's been being muscled because Houston muscled him throughout that whole game, and Jimmy Butler showing up how he does. Are you buying into these championship aspirations for the Golden State, or was this just one game and it doesn't mean anything to you?
Not buying into the aspirations, even whether this series is a quick one or a long one. I think their Golden State's up against a team that's going to be inconsistent enough that it may look like they have what it takes, but the inconsistency of their depth as well. I don't think they have enough to get past either team they would be up against in the second round. So no, I don't think this team has championship vibes. When you win a game by 10, I'll give Golden State credit. They only 11 turnovers historically, even through their championship runs. They've been a turnover prone team. They won the turnover battle in game one. Houston shot 11 from 20 from the free throw line, in addition to 20% from three. So, I mean, that's 9 points left there, in addition to shooting horribly. They're up against a team that I don't want to say it's tailor-made from them, but Golden State is going to out-execute the Rockets.
Okay.
If they can keep the Rockets from out-athleticizing them, they'll get through this series.
Okay.
But if the Rockets close the execution gap in any which way, they still have a chance in this series. So no,
Okay.
I'm not there yet.
You're not convinced yet. You're not there. It's Houston's too inexperienced, too light of a work, essentially. Got you.
Absolutely.
So opposite of Milwaukee and Indiana.
Oh yeah, no, this series still has some juice to it.
Gotcha. All right, guys, let's move on to the next one. One of my favorite matchups. This is my favorite matchup in the West right now. Similar to the dogfight that's happening in the East between the Knicks and the Pistons, this is another dogfight in the West between the Denver Nuggets and Christian's second favorite team, the LA Clippers, because he loves watching them. He's been a big fan of the Clippers for years now.
He loves Los Angeles.
Yeah,
He loves Los
he's an
Angeles.
LA guy, ride or die. And although
not like
they're in
us.
Inglewood now, but he's still all for the Clippers, and it's just great.
City
to
of
see that.
Angels. The
Yeah,
City
man.
of
Lend him a
Angels.
hat.
I need
Yeah,
you guys to stop
man.
lying under my name. All right, I don't need these people to be thinking that I.
You don't love Los Angeles?
You're not a
I
LA
love Los
guy?
Angeles, but I don't.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
support the Clippers. No,
Todd Ballmer.
and neither does anyone
Todd
else. That's
Ballmer.
why.
I
That's
love
why
it.
the get-in price at Clipper game playoff game is $40. So
Wow. So when I'm in LA, we're going
And
to see
you
a
know
Clippers game.
this
because I hate watch the Ticketmaster prices for the Clippers.
Wow.
Or he goes
Wow.
to Clippers games. That's what.
or he's gonna
Hello.
go into game 3.
Yeah, he goes to Clippers games. That's cool. That's cool. All right, y'all. This has been a dogfight. Like I said, crazy. Love this brand of basketball. Love this competition. I've been on record with saying I didn't want this matchup to happen because I like both of these teams. I would love to see both of these teams advance to the second round, but it happens. It happens. Both of them could have controlled their fate in some way of the season, and we're at where we're at. So to catch everybody up, first game went into overtime. It was a dogfight throughout, and then eventually Denver got it together. They pulled away, and they won by 3 points or so. Second game, super tight. They're trading blows. Whereas the first game where the Clippers were really leading and Denver came back, this game was tight throughout. No team really ran away with it. They were both physical with each other. They were trading blows, similar, like I said, with the Pistons and the Knicks. I love this brand of basketball. And each player was locked in. There was no, there was few defensive times off. Players were really locked in. And it went down to the wire. Kawhi showed up. He gave you 39 points. It was just crazy all around. Jokic was showing up. Jamal had a sighting as well, too, even though he's currently under the weather. It's a great series. I'll start with you on this one, Lou. So given that everybody's, and I'll go to Denver angle with you on this one. Given that the Denver Nuggets have fired their general manager, have fired their head coach, Are you surprised that they're still playing as well as they are, as competitive as they are, and are really showing that, hey, they're still a team to be contended with? Are you surprised by any of this?
I'm not, because this is a team that, yeah, you've won a championship. So you play with pride at the end of the day. If you won a championship, especially with the makeup of your team, 80% being what it was before, you play believing, yo, we can get back there. Especially knowing, like I talked about early in the season, I don't care where they look, where they stand early in the season. When it comes down to the end of the season, they'll be in that top four. Because at the end of the day, it's like looking at the OG Spurs. This team has an identity. They built that identity, and that identity got them a championship. And they know what they need. They know who needs to show up for them to be able to win. Look, Aaron Gordon showed out, right? And then they were able to get that win first. That first Jamal, this is what we talked about. Guys who need to show up: Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. Hey, slacking, but and then Joker at the end of the day, man, he's just gonna do his thing. So I'm not surprised at all. They're playing their brand of basketball. Just because the coach was fired doesn't mean that the culture automatically breaks down. They know at the end of the day, yo, we're in the playoffs. We still have a shot. Man, we're still a top four seed. That means we still have a shot. Let's go out there and do our job. We have the best player in the world on our team, and we have a solid supporting cast in our starting five. So let's go do our job. But yeah, I mean, kudos to LA, man. Evan, there's some stuff I have to give you for how the Clips, or both of y'all actually, in terms of the Clips. That Zubac talk that y'all gave, and I was pleasantly surprised in terms of seeing how the games have been going. But yeah, just to circle back and answer your question, Hans, I'm not surprised at all. They're playing their brand of basketball. They're playing with pride. They know they've been champions, and they have the aspirations of doing it again.
Facts. Ev, I know we still have to discuss the resident, topic that we always have to get to. So I'll ask you this question real quick. In this series, given that these teams are really so evenly matched, is this series a coin toss series, or do you have a team that has an edge?
This series is a coin toss series as long as the Clippers are going to continue to get this level of Kawhi Leonard. One of the things that I enjoy doing all during the year, it's a pastime of mine, is when I check the box scores, I see first, okay, how many did somebody score? But then I also love to see how many shots did it take them to get those points, right? You could score 30 on 25 shots. I'm not impressed with that. 39 points on 19 shots. We're talking about a Kawhi that this version of Kawhi is why you sacrifice these 5 years and still give him his money.
Max efficiency.
Exactly. Because if
Telling
you
you.
ever, yeah,
Kevin
I
Durant
don't gonna lie though.
levels.
Now, Ev, you're pushing the envelope.
No, listen.
You don't suffer this long for that.
But well, if you know, well, they didn't know, right? It's the hope that you could still get this in a playoff, because that version in a playoff gives you a chance in every series. So as long as Kawhi's healthy, sorry to say it, as long as Kawhi remains healthy, this is a coin toss series, as is any series that the Clippers will be in.
Man, yeah, man. No, excellent point. Crazy. All right, guys, let's move on to our resident Lakers segment. All right, so the Lakers.
And then we're done. So we're moving on. That's great.
Moving on to player awards, guys. So the players, they voted on awards that they would. Oh, we have to do this. All right. I guess we'll.
My bad.
We'll do it for 2 minutes. We'll do it for 2 minutes, guys.
Man,
So
give Pop Mamba his props, man.
yeah, man. As we're presently recording, the Lakers are playing right now, so we won't have the end result for you. But what we can say is that the Lakers are comfortably ahead right now with a couple minutes left until halftime. The Lakers are up by 22. And the first game was definitely Minnesota was in the driver's seat, and they never looked back. They were in control. As Pod Mama likes to say,
that's a punch in the mouth game.
They were shooting career highs.
No, like they
from
literally
three.
did. I mean, it was
Here we
literally
go.
their season
I
high
knew
in
it was coming.
3-point
It was coming.
percentage that makes.
Okay, I'm glad I caught him on this. Okay, so here's
All
what
right.
bothers me about the Pod Mamba and his career high statements. What's more telling? What's more probable? I don't know if you guys play lottery or gamble. What's more probable? Or if you bet, not that we're promoting betting here. You guys got to sponsor us, so we're not going to talk about anybody. What's more probable, guys? That all these players in the NBA are getting up and having career highs from three against the Lakers, or the Lakers have trouble guarding the three when they're double teaming? Which one is more likely? I'm just throwing that out there.
I mean,
just
to
saying.
go from, they had the number one defense in the league for about 3 weeks and managed to fall back down to 17th in the league. So
They
I think
weren't
that
double teaming anybody on those 3 weeks.
I think that tells you who this team truly is defensively. And I mean, listen, you got Luka, Austin Reeves, and a 40-year-old LeBron James. I mean, that's to be expected. Was also to be expected. I think, again, we don't know how the game's going to end, but Minnesota coming out and looking
Minnesota
like they're
up
currently
2-0. Go ahead.
well.
Go ahead.
I would say them coming out and looking terrible in game 2 was probably
It's-
the most
it's a
predictable
game of-
result
it's-
of any series. Right?
It's a game of runs. It's a game of runs. It's a game of runs.
Absolutely.
So what's more
I know we gotta
probable,
go.
as what Hans say, what's more probable
Here we go.
that the Wolves' career shooting night in game 1 is the real Wolves, or the Wolves playing like shit in game 2 is the real Wolves?
They're playing like crap in game 2. That's how you
Somewhere-
feel.
somewhere
Let's
in the
see how
middle.
let's see how the game ends, and then we
Because
can revisit.
McDaniels was 3 for 3 last game, and he's a 33% 3-point shooter in the season. So I mean, I'm just trying to figure this out.
The average is not over 1 game or 2 games; it's over a season of games. Let's see how it plans out when the game is over.
called law
If
of
you guys
averages.
tie it, let's have a conversation. But if you're down 2-0, going back to Minnesota,
Oh, it's over.
Wow.
If we go down 0-2, it's over. I'll even admit that.
You never
But
know,
I'm
man.
watching-
LeBron put on his cape, man.
What I'm watching more than anything in this series is plus or minus 10 minutes a game for Dalton Connect, because I can still have conversations for days on this rescinded Mark Williams trade and what it is or isn't doing for this team right now. But I know
you've been lurking on the background, just waiting for that.
Before we go,
Waiting for that, like
I just want to mention this. I think the reason why the Lakers are doing better in game 2 so far is because they're actually running sets as opposed to the last game was too much ISO ball freelancing. And I think when they get into their sets, they're able to move the ball and play better as an offensive team.
is that a coaching thing?
Yeah. I think I put blame on JJ for that for last game for game 1.
Well, what I'll give JJ, I agree with it. But what's funny about JJ is JJ doesn't hide his emotions at all in the interviews in between quarters. Like he basically says what you just said when they interview him in the quarters. It's kind of hilarious
And
how,
you know
how
why? 'Cause
honest he is.
He's still a player. That's why at heart he's still a player. He can't. He hasn't switched off into full coach mode.
coach mode. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he's
facts.
still a player.
That's facts. But what I will say is this, though. Regardless of this outcome, though, I still think that the Lakers have the talent to make this a 6-7 game series, even if they go down 0-2. So I still see this as being a long series. I don't see this as being a short series by any stretch on either side. Even though most of the analysts were having the Lakers getting, this done 4-1, in 5, Shannon's 5 montage have been
Let's
going
talk
on.
about Shannon. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about Shannon. There's other things going on about Shannon that we won't touch into, but
Lakers
I'll say
and
this. I feel like this is a good series in the sense of we'll see the proof, if the proof is in the pudding, for a couple players, because I think this is another test for Ant and his legacy and to see how he shows up, right, and what he does. And I also think this is a test for Luka as well too, along with LeBron, and seeing how he manages this team and can he really give the reins up, et cetera, et cetera. But
Look,
let's
man,
go ahead, Lou.
Gabriella, Coachella, Ciao Bella, Minnesota in 5.
Love it. And we're moving on. I love it. All right, guys. So we touched on some NBA awards. As you know, it's that time of year. As Lou said, unseasoned Curry got the Sixth Man of the Year award. But a poll was also conducted among NBA players, and it was an anonymous poll. And the results are in on this one. So I'm going to read the results real quick and we can discuss and have fun with them. So the players voted for most underrated player. Cade Cunningham was voted as number one as most underrated, followed by Derek White and Norman Powell, Austin Reeves, and Drew Holiday. Jaren Jackson Jr. is in there. I don't know why he's not underrated. All right. MVP. The players gave it to SGA, which I'm surprised, overwhelmingly so.
They hating
56%.
on Joker.
They're tired of getting beat by Joker.
They fed up, yo. They like he just wants to watch some horse races, and I gotta keep. Y'all want him to be MVP? Now I'm fed up.
That's
Him and his
funny.
brothers.
That's funny. And this voting lined up with the regular voting as well. Jokic being number two, Giannis, and Donovan Mitchell actually got a nod and tied with Giannis on this one. So I like to see that the players respect game, man. Also, face of the league in 5 years. Wemby is number one for that, and Edwards is number two, followed by SGA. I think we can all agree on that. This is going to be the next faces of the league, the guys that are going to be in the Hall of Fame, et cetera, et cetera. So I see that as well. This one is interesting. For the 2025 NBA championship, they have the Boston Celtics, overwhelmingly so, over 57%, saying Celtics are going to repeat. Number two is OKC, Cavs, followed by the Lakers and Nuggets. That's wild. They have the Lakers in there for okay. All right.
Check their parlays.
Listen, man. All right. Best coach, Mark Daigneault, OKC. That makes sense. Followed by Kenny and Eric Spoelstra. Okay. Worst coach. How do you say the Wizards' coach's last name?
Brian Keefe.
Is it Keefe? Okay.
Yeah.
So Brian Keefe is voted worst coach by the players. Mike Budenholzer was second, followed by Doc Rivers. Best organization, Golden State, voted number one. Number two, OKC. Number three, Celtics. Worst organization, number one is the Hornets. Oh, man. Number two is the Wizards. Number three is the Pelicans. This is why I like these awards, man. They ask the right questions.
The Hornets really funny, yo. Saying the Hornets is actually hilarious. Out of left field, like why? Like I want to see that. You know when they have the open-ended questions. I want to see what people penciled in for why. For sure.
Yeah, we gotta ask these NBA podcasters. They need to do this because they have more insight. And last but not least, most overrated player, Tyrese Halliburton, number one. Rudy Gobert, number two. Trae Young, number three. I love these awards just because they ask questions. These are the awards that we really want. I'm sorry. These are the people's awards. These are the awards that I really want. These are the awards that I care about. MVP,
the Players' Choice Awards.
Yes, I want the Players' Choice Awards. We need to have this. Make this an official awards show. Have people going up there. Have the most overrated player get something whack. I love it. I want to see these awards. Do you think the players pay attention to this?
Everybody all next season? Absolutely. Because you saw what you say. Just what my peers think about me. They definitely like, all right, next season I'm on you.
And I think they recognize the level of pettiness that goes into the decisions that are made. So it provides that prideful fuel into the next year, right?
I love it. Yeah.
There's merit, but there isn't any merit to all of these awards. So I think they take it and they're like, okay, I see what y'all are saying. See about me next calendar year.
If you ever had to wonder what your peers think about you, this is
there it is. What about the other side of it, though? Does it not solidify what the greatness of some of the other players? Wemby being there as the face of the league, along with SGA, and SGA being voted by his peers for the MVP as well, too. Doesn't that also kind of lament all the hard work that you've put it in? If you're on the positive side of the awards, anyway, to that, one of the things I'll say this, and then we got to close. I heard this on a podcast or on social media. One of the greatest things people like to hear when they're on the court is he's a shooter, right? people lamenting that, recognizing your greatness, recognizing your effort on the court. So I also think that if I'm a player and I'm SGA, this nod to MVP means a little more than the other nod to the MVP. So, but I'm getting the wrap up signal by our Pod Mamba resident Clippers fan. So, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Hit us up on our social media. Check us out on YouTube. As always, we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Peace.
What's up, guys, and thanks for listening. I want you to do 2 things for me right now. 1, give this episode a thumbs up, and 2, be sure to subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on all the socials at the 3on3 Podcast and send us an email at the 3on3podcast@gmail.com. We appreciate you, and tune in next week.